Cheers, everyone. Welcome to Riffin with HP, where we talk about old school and underrated bands and try to bring them to the masses. Today, we're covering Janis Joplin, per few request. And um, this is in 1960s, early 1960s. She got her career, started her career, really. We'll go ahead and get into it. I got a few facts to get over, and then we'll do some fun facts, and we'll just talk about the music, the influences, and things like that. Appreciate everybody being here. Like, if you have a band you want to see, put it in the comments. Again, this is in 1960s, early 1960s. Janis Joplin began singing publicly in the early 1960s, making her professional debut in December of 61 at the Purple Onion Club in Houston, Texas. And she then sang with a bluegrass group called the Waller Creek Boys in Austin before moving to San Francisco in 1963 to sing folk and blues in local coffee houses. And that's kind of how she got her start. Um, Janis Lynn Joplin is her full name, born in 1943. American singer-songwriter, one of the most iconic and successful rock performers of her era, and she was noted for her powerful mezzo-soprano vocals and her electric stage performance, or presence rather, performance presence, whatever you want to say. 1967, she rose to prominence following an appearance at Monterey International Pop Festival, where she was the lead singer of the then little known San Francisco psychedelic rock band Big Brother and the Holding Company. I'm not sure who that is. After releasing two albums with the band, she left Big Brother to continue as a solo artist with her own backing groups. First the Cosmic Blues Band and then Full Tilt Boogie Band, and she performed at the 1969 Woodstock Festival. A lot of people probably seen this performance. And same one with Jimi Hendrix and Carlos Santana, what have you, a few other people. Top 5 singles by Janis Joplin reached the Billboard Hot 100, including a cover of Christine Christopherson, Me and Bobby McGee. That's one of her most popular ones. Reached number 1 in March of 71. Her most popular songs included her cover versions of Piece of Heart, Cry Baby, Down on Me. These are some songs you can check out here. Ball and Chain, Summertime. As well as her original song, Mercedes Benz. We'll show off her portrait in a little bit. She died of a heroin overdose in October of 70 at the age of 27. We talked a little bit about the infamous 27 Club. It's a long list of musicians who were part of that, Janis Joplin being one of them. Her second album, Pearl, was released in January of 71, 3 months after her death, and it reached number 1 on the Billboard 200. And in 1975, she became the first female solo artist to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in her first year of eligibility, to mind you. And something they kind of highlighted whenever I was researching this for the show. And 1960s is a really male-dominated era, especially in the music industry. So it's nice to be able to stand out for sure. Rolling Stones ranked her number 28 on its 2008 list of 200 greatest singers of all time, dropping to number 78 in 2023. Only number 78. As of 2025, she was still one of the top selling vocalists in the United States. Pretty crazy. With Recording Industry Association of America, the RIAA, we talked about them a little bit throughout the show. Certifications, she sold 18.5 million albums. Good stuff. Her death in October of 1997, age 27, stunned her fans and shocked the world, especially whenever coupled with deaths of Canned Heat guitarist Alan Wilson a month earlier and rock icon Jimi Hendrix 16 days earlier, both at age 27. All three musicians performed at the two biggest rock festivals in the 1960s: the Montreal Pop Festival and the Woodstock Festival. And this would later cause some people to attribute significance to the death of the musicians at the age of 27, celebrated as the 27 Club. Let's talk a little bit about her influences. Her influences very obviously Steven Tyler and Stevie Nicks. Definitely that blues, raspy, rock kind of vibe to it for sure. She had a profound influence on many singers, including Pink said she was so inspiring by singing blues whenever it wasn't culturally acceptable for white women, and she wore her heart on her sleeve. She was so witty and charming and intelligent, but she also battled an ugly duckling syndrome. Hearing Joplin is what inspired Japanese rock pioneer um, Cameron Mackey to switch um, from folk, sorry, to rock music. But yeah, that's one thing I wanted to highlight. My personal notes that I have. I don't know if we're hard on our sleeve isn't necessarily how I would word it, but that's a good way to say it. That's the reason why a lot of people, uh, it's not their flavor, they don't like it. But you could say we just talked about this with Tool. Even if you don't like it, you have to respect it because it's real music. That's why she got famous. Why she had a number one album because it was good music, but the message was good too, right? It had that double meaning, that double like it was very holistic. It had everything to it. The feeling made you laugh, made you cry, made you feel, made you think. And that's good stuff. That's what music should do. All right. She was a trailblazing rock and blues icon known for a raw, raspy, and electrifying stage presence. Her style, the way she dressed. Talk about this so often. Our music today has been influenced by what was made in the 70s. And what they were in the 70s, they weren't just like, you know what, it's the 70s, we need to start wearing flowers and like doing blues and rock and stuff like that. It was just the way that the generation had changed to what it had changed to. But that later ended up influencing what music is today. The whole vibe, when you think about the 70s, you think about Led Zeppelin and that style of dress, the way they would dress with like bell bottom jeans and really like loose button up shirts and stuff like that. Just kind of like a different world, dude. Different time. Though her life was tragically cut short, as we talked about, her unapologetic lifestyle, iconic psychedelic Porsche, and um, posthumous Billboard number one hits permanently reshaped the 1960s music scene. Let's here we go. Go ahead and skip to this. The infamous car. Instead of the Mercedes Benz she famously should sing about, she drove a wildly psychedelic custom painted 1964 Porsche. And I have a picture of it right here for you guys. I guess we should have her open the screen anyway as we're talking about this. Yeah, this is the Porsche. Pretty crazy, isn't it? Yeah, different time, dude. Different wild time. Because even now, if you saw that on the road, you're like, wow, that's crazy. But then it was the style, it was the flair to be psychedelic and weird and out there. That's one of the famous stories that she was kind of a standout in school, and that's kind of weirdly what created. Because you think about it, it sticks with your head so much. That's what you can think back and look on. Is those things, those moments, and when you attach music to it, it strengthens that memory even stronger. Um, Janis Joplin briefly attended the University of Austin, Texas, where she was cruelly voted the ugliest man on campus by a fraternity. So it's that kind of thing I was just talking about, like being an ugly duck and stand out, and just like Pete was saying, and not really giving a fuck what people think and still doing your own thing. And this is a beautiful thing we love to talk about on the show. So many people like love to hate, but yeah, I bet none of her classmates had a number one Billboard chart selling album. So, people can hate, but originality stands out for sure. Um, in 1970, she helped pay for a proper headstone to be placed on an unmarked grave in her primary musical of her primary musical inspiration, blues legend Bessie Smith. So, you're not familiar with Bessie Smith, but again, it's that old school blues music that you definitely can hear in that sound, and that's kind of what inspired me to make the music that I make. Is some of the music that I make anyway. Definitely, like I like to have a bluesy sound because of and even some of the upcoming bands that we're going to talk about here. These '90 bands, Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine, and on and on. It has that really bluesy sound. We just covered Soundgarden and Audio Slave. It has that really rocky blues sound, but it developed into what it is, right? Because the people, were like her, weren't afraid to adapt it, regardless of what people thought it had to be a certain color to play this music or whatever, right? Because that's really any kind of music you play, you're putting your own twist on it, starts to evolve into something different. So like, where does the line between blues and blues rock lie? It's kind of a philosophical question more than practical and logical one. Before hitting it big, she lived in High Asbury and recorded bootleg tracks where a friend, the guitarist's wife, played the beat on a typewriter. That's pretty neat. um, and I was just mentioning this about, even though this is the 60s is a totally different era, it bred that rock and roll personality that, I don't care what people think of me. I'm just going to do what I want, be free and rock. And it's art. You don't have to watch. You don't have to listen to it if you don't like it. You can just leave. But if you want to stay, I have something to say. And this is what I have to say. Put on a show. And people are, again, that's, it's really impactful whenever you leave a concert and you're like, wow, that stuck with me for a little while, seeing that performance. And Jimi Hendrix and Carlos Santana, like I mentioned, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, all these different bands from the 60s, 70s. Um, Fleetwood Mac is another great hippie band that came from that era, and led to what we have today. It's the music that we have today. You're like, how could the music today be influenced by that? But if you sit down and listen to these people, you can say, well, what music did you listen to whenever you grew up? And their parents probably listened to something similar to this or something around this time period or something like that. U2 or Boston or somebody, right, in that time period. And that's what influenced what they listen to today. And it might not sound the same. There's tons of examples we give it on this show about how the bands that influenced the Gorillas, that influenced Little Stranger, and it's like a totally different band every time it evolves. It's just like having a kid. It's like it's got the remnants of the parents in it, but it's a totally different thing on its own. And that's really how to be creative is just to take like everything you create is influenced by something, right? So you just take the best of the best. What is in your head is the best of the best. Expose yourself to it. Learn the dynamics and the intricacies and timing and time signatures and styles and genres and all this different stuff. And you put it to your art, whatever you want it to be. Super great. It's a nice band to cover. Let me check some comments here. Nice, nice. Heck yeah. Enjoy, man. Cheers, everyone. Heck yeah. Cheers. And again, put some bands in the comments that you want to see. We're going to be covering some of the 90s bands upcoming for at least the next couple weeks, I'll say. My list right now, in order without looking at it, it's got Nirvana, we'll be covering Saturday. It's got Rage Against the Machine, we'll be covering next week. Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, a lot of the 90s bands. So we'll go through a lot of those. Um, as far as the 70s are concerned, though, this is definitely my kind of 70s because it's that bluesy, rock, hippie kind of music. And it's really what I kind of gravitate a lot more towards the Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones kind of thing. I like that a lot. Has a lot of like bluesy, soulful influence. You can hear it in the music. And, whenever it's funny because when I say Rolling Stones are a blues band, a blues rock band anyway, and you might not think that, you might not see that on the face because you're so used to hearing "Sympathy for the Devil," But even that has like a lot of blues inspiration feel to it. But definitely, if you deep dive into their music and really see what's going on, you can be like, "Wow, I can see the inspiration here. I can see the influence of these different people." But let's go back here. I want to check and see that person that they claimed was her influence, and we'll check her out just to kind of talk about what I'm saying here. Um, Bessie Smith. Check out Bessie Smith. I'm not sure if I've seen this before. The Empress of Blues. Nicknamed the Empress of Blues, was a highly paid black performer and most popular female blues singer of the 1920s and 30s. Maybe I have heard of her before. Born in Chattanooga, Tennessee, she started singing on the street corners with her brother and developed her vocal skills. And Black Vaudeville. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it vaudeville. Monitored by blues singer Gertrude Ma, nicknamed Ma Rainey. Smith learned to command an audience and navigate the music industry. It's all about being a performer, baby. So it makes no sense that we were talking about this on the show. It's like how Plato's teaches Aristotle, who teaches or yeah teaches Aristotle, teaches Socrates. It goes down the line like these influences, and you can see how this person influenced this person. And apparently, Gertrude Rainey Ma right here, she is a bad girl too because she was influencing her. They're like even like this is how you do it. Like do it and take it and run with it. And then Janis Joplin picked up on that somewhere along the way, probably because of her parents listening to it or whatever, right? And was influenced by it. And that's nice. And this is the old school way of getting popular. It's not TikTok overnight fame. It's playing on the street corners and people walking by and be like, wow, you're different than the other 20 people I've already passed by playing guitar, right? Especially in that time period, music is really a big pastime. It's like what people did. Well, you can see when somebody's different, hear when somebody's feel it whenever somebody's different. You're like, oh, that feels different when I walk by whenever I hear you play. That's really good. You got to stop and listen and be like, who are you? What's going on? And then who are your influences and things like that. And then bam, that influences you. You're gonna go home and be like, damn, that shit inspires the fuck out of me. I gotta go home and write something. That shit's too good. Some of the best bands I love. I hate listening to their music sometimes. I'm like, damn, this shit's too good. Like, how am I gonna top that? Like, it really inspires you to want to up your level. We even gave an example of that a couple times in the episode, but just the last episode about um and Pink Floyd, where the guitarist and the bassist are like having internal conflict, but it's in the music too. It really steps up your game, makes you work a little bit harder. Uh, I'm a big believer in like having that competition makes you a better person for sure. Cool. I think we're gonna wrap this up. It's been a good episode. Um, Nirvana Saturday, man, one of my favorite bands. I've said this several times on the show, dude. I've spent more time researching Nirvana and the whole backstory of what happened to him and all his handwritten notes, his influences and inspiration than I did doing my schoolwork. And that's the reason, like the inspiration, that's really the seed for doing the show, Riffin with HP, comes from. Because when you look at a band like Nirvana, you're like, yeah, it's Nirvana, whatever, dude, who cares? But when you really look deep into it, it's interesting. It adds so much ambiance to the story. Um, that being said, it can sometimes ruin a band. Um, Find out the singer's a dickhead or whatever. You're like, I don't like this band so much anymore. But whenever it's good, it makes it more rich. It's like adding a little bit of salt to your food. That shit makes it nice. Um, cool. Getting out of here, guys. See y'all later. Um, make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. Yeah, let's check out sports one more time before we get out. Psychedelic, dude. It's a different time, different world. It's crazy. All right, everyone. Have a great night. See you guys later. Bye.